Greetings to you wherever you are in this world. This is Michelle Strickland. And this is Kicking It on the Chase with Chelle. And it's basically going to be um, live sessions that give adults an opportunity to kind of interact with each other in a clean and fun way. Um, I'm going to try to add some little things here and there that pertain to adults that so that we can have a dialogue between each other. Also, I want this to be an opportunity for adults from all over the world to be have an opportunity to meet each other. Um, but until then, until people feel like they want to try to interact with me, I'll probably just kind of just give you some basic information. I may not stay on long, depending on who all is in the room. Um, but anyway, so I started the channel about 5 weeks ago, so everything is brand new. I'm going to come every weekend up until I think it's December the 30th and do lives on Friday and Saturday nights and catered towards adults. I have other little videos that I'll release through the week. I have on Sunday a PSA announcements, and those videos don't last that long. And then on Tuesday, I'll have a social skills class. And then on, let's see, then Fridays and Saturdays, I will have Kicking It on the Chase with Chelle. And throughout the week, I'll do little shorts or, just little small videos or whatever. So that's kind of that's the direction that the channel is going to be heading in. I did decide today that I would have a theme song for each weekend. And this particular weekend, the theme song for today and tomorrow is it's a cool song that I found on the net. It's really, there's an old saying, fix your wagon. And so there was a song that I found that was really, really catchy. And so I wanted to highlight that song, and it's fun. It's a fun song, and but it has some little tidbits of things that can spark discussion. So that song is called "Fix Your Wagon," and it's by California Speed Bag. So I highly encourage you to listen to that song because it's pretty cool. It talks about interaction, how people interacting when they're having some difficulties. And so it's kind of a fun song. So if you get a chance, listen to that song. And so on the weekends when we do the lives, the song that is chosen for that particular week, we'll pull out little tidbits of stuff and then kind of talk about it a little bit and then give you an opportunity to just discuss things amongst yourselves also. So what I'm going to do until I get everything built up and we have people that are willing to chat, I'm just going to kind of read some information for you, and you can kind of pick it up at a later date. But it's just so I can fill up space, and justify being here. So, but these are some tips that I think would be good for people to be reminded of. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is being able to learning how to express your needs, So I'm just going to give you some ideas and ways or phrases that you can use to kind of express your needs, to clearly communicate, what your needs are, and then, give people an idea what your limitations are. Okay. For instance, under expressing your needs, you might want to say something like, I need some time alone right now. If you're having some difficulty or whatever, and you don't feel like talking to somebody, it's better to just be straight with people and let them know where you are. Because in that way, it's easier for people to have an understanding of where you're kind of at, what your mood, and then, for instance, I could really use some help with whatever that task is. Be specific about what it is that you're wanting, when you're talking to people. I think communication is one thing that we tend to let let slide. And it's very important because we can't read minds, People think they can read your mind, but we really can't. And it's better to be as direct as possible so people can understand specifically what it is that you have a concern with or need help with. Another expression would be, I need more support in, and then whatever that would be. And then I need you to listen without offering advice. I know people have said that to somebody. There's a way to say it and not say it. Believe it or not, a lot of these techniques might work, and it's best to try to stay as calm as you can. Be getting all excited and all of that. That just makes things more frustrating. Setting boundaries. For instance, you could say something like, I'm not comfortable discussing whatever that situation is right now. I know I've used these techniques with people. I have lost my temper before, yeah, but most of the time I'll just say, listen, I don't feel like talking about it or whatever. I try to be specific about whatever it is that my concern is. Here's another, for instance. I can't stay late tonight. I have other commitments. I mean, whether somebody really has a commitment or they're using that as an excuse. That's a nice way to be formal and let people know, a nice way to kind of be able to back yourself out of a situation if you don't feel like being around somebody. That's a polite way that's a polite expression that you could use. And telling people that you need to set some boundaries around your personal space. I think that's important. It sounds corny, but it's better to be direct with people. If you feel like somebody's crowding your space, just be straight with them. If they don't like it, then figure out what you need to do to remove yourself from the situation. If you don't feel like being bothered. Sometimes people, might want to ask you for money or something. So in a case like that, you might want to say, I can't lend money right now, but I'm happy to help in other ways. Sometimes people will want to loan money to folks, or sometimes people will want you to loan money to them. But we had an old saying where I'm from in Iowa, and it went sort of like this, don't loan something you can't give. Because most of the time, a lot of times from my experience, most people won't pay you back anyway, or they take longer than what they say, so try not to allow yourself to be trapped in that situation. These are just giving you ideas of things you can say to kind of, get around but be direct at the same time. And then, some things you could say when you're dealing with others is, for instance, I appreciate your concern, but I need to handle this on my own. Sometimes people are nosy and you don't want other people in your business, and that's a nice way to say, get out of my business, step back. Another, for instance, I feel overwhelmed when whatever the behavior happens, When you're hollering at me, I feel uncomfortable. Can you just lower your voice or talk to me calm? This is just an idea. Another, for instance, would be, I'd rather not be interrupted during whatever the activity. Well, I can understand that. There's nothing worse than talking over someone that's trying to, explain what it is that they're trying to say to you, because sometimes people don't talk real fast and they have to process information, and they might need a few seconds to think about and get their train of thought together. So, and then requesting respect for your limits. You could say, for instance, I can't tolerate being spoken to in that way. Now, I would be the kind of person that would say something like that, because I don't like to argue with people. I really don't, and I don't think it's necessary. I know it happens. I have before, but I don't like it. And so I try to get away from doing stuff like that, and I'll say, hey, you don't have to yell at me right now, or I'll get up and go in another space or something like that, because I don't like confrontation like that, because it can lead into other stuff if it gets out of control. But I understand it happens, Another thing that you can consider is I need you to respect my decision on this matter. I mean, I know we've all probably said that one. And sometimes that's just where we're at. We don't want other people's input on um, on something that we made a decision about. Uh, Something else that you could say is, I've reached my limit for today. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow. Just kind of, if it just seems like it's not getting anywhere and you don't feel like, you know, it's something that you want to deal with right then, just say that. You can say something like that. That's polite. Um, Also, it's important for me to have some space right now. So I would be somebody to use that one. I would probably be good for that one. I need some space. Can you just, I'd get up and go in another area or just not say anything, get quiet, and just, sometimes when you're dealing with certain people, it's just kind of hard. If they're just kind of just ranting and stuff, just let them rant. If you don't have any other option, as far as being able to go to another room, or just don't engage with them. Let them just do their ranting or whatever, and just try to hope for that they'll just kind of calm down. As I mentioned before, until we get the chat to where we have the room filled up, I'm going to be reading information just to fill time up until we get stuff built up. Once it's built up, I'm not going to be reading stuff like this. I'm not going to do that. We're just going to talk, and I'm going to assign a song for that particular weekend. And we might just kind of pick the song apart, and just kind of laugh and talk about some of the issues that might be in the song, just make fun. But for right now, I'm just filling up space, until I get the channel built up. So that's the only reason why I'm reading this, this stuff. One thing that I really want to promote, heading into 2020, the end of 2023 and 2024, are healthy ways for people to engage in flirting with each other. I think that people need to have discussions about that. People are really afraid to engage with each other right now. And we should be able to, I think flirting is healthy as long as people have boundaries with it, And so I'm going to just kind of talk about maybe some safe ways, that people can flirt. For instance, like maintaining eye contact. Establishing and maintaining eye contact shows confidence and interest. There's to me nothing worse than somebody that can't look me, that doesn't feel comfortable to look me in my eyes. And it gives the other person the impression that it can make somebody uncomfortable when you're talking to them and you're not looking at them in their eyes. So that's just something to think about. I know people get nervous and stuff like that. I was kind of a shy person, and when I was younger, I had a problem with that. But as I grew older, there were people that noticed that I wouldn't do that. So they talked to me about it. And once they talked to me about it, then I changed that behavior, and I became better about that. Smile genuinely. That's something too that a lot of people are afraid to do. A lot of people, they're afraid to smile because they think that somebody's going to take it the wrong way, But I try to encourage people to smile, and it can make you kind of nervous sometimes when you smile at somebody and they don't smile back, But I mean, that's just kind of how it is. You want to, I believe in smiling. I think it's important. And so I smile at people all the time. Sometimes, most of the time they'll smile back. And I notice too, when I run into people and they might have this like really stone face or something like that. And, when I smile at them, sometimes it's like they barrel into their meanness, it's like the Grinch kind of thing. But then there's some people that might have that stone face, but when I smile, then it just kind of breaks the ice, and then you can see some kind of a change in their face, and then they all smile, So I think smiling is really important, and that's something that I'm gonna really promote. Um, the end of the year going into the 2024 is people just smiling. I want to try to have an impact on people attitude somehow, you know, so we can change the society a little bit, one person at a time, though. You know, I'll try not to make it look at it like, in groups and stuff like that. Like it's I try to look at it in terms of just reaching one person at a time. Then it doesn't seem so enormous. Um, use positive body language. I really believe in that too. You know, body language means a lot. And it can intimidate people. So I think people need to be conscious of that, where you don't have stances that make people feel a little bit uncomfortable. So that's just something to think about. If you stand or sit straight, avoid crossing your legs, which can be seen as a defensive stance. I sometimes cross my legs. It just depends. I'm short, so I don't sit. I very rarely sit all the way. I have to be. Sometimes I sit back. If I sit back, I'm usually like at home. But when I'm out in public, I don't normally just like sit back. It just to me it's uncomfortable. So a lot of times I sit straight up. And I very seldom have problems with my back because I don't slouch. I try not to. I very seldom have problems. So that's posture. I think is our body language is very important. Um, compliment sincerely. Give compliments that are specific and genuine. I compliment people all the time, and it throws them off. It's like because they're not sure whether I'm coming on to them or just. I think that's very important. People don't get enough compliments. That's something. But this whole society is turned inside out. So if you say certain things to people, they might take it the wrong way. So we have to be careful how we approach people and what we say to people. Kind of look and see what their mood could possibly be. And just be careful of that. Because some people could take it the wrong way, and I realize that. So just be real careful with that. Try to find common interests. Bonding over shared hobbies or interests can create a deeper connection. One thing that I do when I'm out and about, because I've been around rich people and poor people and everything in between. And the one thing I can get along with everybody because I'm sincere, and I love being around poor people. Sometimes, they can be kind of animated, but so can the rich people, you know. Uh, but I noticed that I'm able to get along with most people because I'm sincere. And then when I'm having discussions with them, I try to talk to them about something that's relevant, something that they could relate to. And so I'm able to uh, get along with most people. I probably should have went into mediations because I'm really good at that. But um, if you could find something, a common interest, the weather was, that sounds corny, but oh wow, the weather was, it was really stormy today. Just that's just a for instance. Or man, it was hot today. That gets people engaged. Just little simple comments. Like that. Um, Now, with the touch, you got to be careful with that because some people don't want people touching them. They get real squeamish. So I'm not going to really go off into that. You should probably leave the light touches and stuff like that for your close friends. That's because people might take that the wrong way. I have a habit sometimes of touching people, and sometimes they take it. Most time they take it okay, but sometimes people overreact and they act like you really overstepping your boundaries. So people have to really be careful with that. I'm not going to go into that one too much. Be playful and tease lightly. I tease people all the time. I do. I do. I do. And most of the time they receive it well. Sometimes people just kind of look like I'm crazy or whatever. I'm kind of a little hellcat. So I play a lot. But I think laughter is very important, to the soul. So but I've been like that my whole life, and when I'm interacting, even with family members, we tease a lot. When I just tease people a lot. Even when I was, before I retired, I would tease people in the workplace. I tease my clients or whatever. So I think that being able to tease people in a fun way where it's not obscene or something like that, or um, what's the word I'm trying to say? Offensive. I think that's a good way to kind of break the ice, and it's a way to flirt with somebody. I flirt with people all the time, but I try to be careful who I flirt with. I don't, I mean, I just don't flirt with every single person, but I just flirt just a little bit. But that's just to break the ice with folks. It's not to be obscene, or it's not like I just want to jump out there and just try to be with them like that. It's not like that. But I think that it's fun and it's healthy. Not only that, when people get compliments, sometimes it makes them feel better about themselves. So just be careful with that. Um, when you're using humor, try to be wise about it, because some people may not appreciate certain humor. So when we're around different cultures and stuff like that, we got to be careful with that, using cultural jokes and stuff like that. And also gestures, we have to be careful with gestures. I found out the other day that peace sign in the UK is like flipping somebody off. I was like, oh my gosh. So we got to be really, when you're using hands, when you're using, hand signs and symbols and stuff, be careful, because different cultures, it might be obscene in their culture. So we got to watch that. That's something to think about. Asking open-ended questions, such as you can encourage the other person to share more about themselves. Um, I don't go real deep into that too much, but sometimes if I'm talking to somebody and the discussion kind of allows me to lead into that question, I will. But I don't really. Most of the time, I try not to get at people's business, because they may not want you to know what it is they do. You know. Um, I know when I had a lot of jobs where I had to have clearances, and so, you know, people were always curious. Whenever I was going to and fro, they would wonder what I did. And so when I'd explained some, things to them, sometimes I didn't always uh, tell them exactly what I did. Um, for instance, when I worked for the Internal Revenue Service, I became a tax examiner, which I loved, but I retired early because I just needed to. I had a stroke, and then I was hit in a car 30 days after that, and so I had my brain and stuff like that. It affected my brain, and so I said, you know what? I chose my health so that I could heal. So I'm better now, but it hasn't been that long ago. So, but when I was working for them, they warned us to don't really tell people that what you do, because when you're working with the Internal Revenue Service, that's people's taxes and stuff like that. People get real like, oh, but most of those people are really good people, and we really tried to help people as much as we could. I know I did. I know people that I worked around. We really tried hard not to be fair. So they're not bad people. But then I had other jobs, social service positions, and case manager positions, and so I didn't always tell people exactly what I did. But I would say, I work in social services, and I just help people do whatever, this or that. And I don't always be specific with some stuff, but some people don't really need to know, because that can lead into something else. People counting your money for you. Oh, they do this. Oh, and dollar signs. People can be kind of deceptive and devious. So I would be careful with that. But I know a lot of times people are nosy, and they'll ask, "Well, what are you doing for a living?" or something like that. you know. But that's also a way for them to be nosy, kind of, to kind of rank you and see what it is, what your status is in the workforce. But at any rate, um, being authentic is very important. That's one thing. I don't like being fake, and I can't stand being around fake people. You know, that's all. I just let people see me for who I am, and they can accept me or not. If they don't, that's fine. You know, it doesn't really matter to me because they're not paying my bill, so I could care less. But I do try to be polite to people. But if I feel like, um, having discussions with people, um, is gonna present a problem for me, then I just kind of back out of the conversation and either leave the area or just not really focus on a whole lot of dialogue with people. Um, Text thoughtfully. You got to be careful with that. That text and stuff. Just be careful what you're putting in your text. Because some people, they can just, depending on who it is you're texting, people will screenshot that stuff and then try to use that stuff against you. So you just want to be careful, real careful what you're saying to people in text, you know. But I think that it's important to use that as a tool to stay engaged with somebody when you're flirting. I think it's okay. Watch what you're saying though, because that stuff can be used against you, so you don't want to try to say a whole lot, just something to keep in mind, just keep it real generic, but I think that is a tool just to stay engaged with whoever it is that you're communicating with. Those emojis, I use those when I'm doing like in chat, stuff like that, or when I'm sending a text, you know certain emails. I don't do it too much on the emails, but the emojis are fun. It gives people an opportunity to um, see your humor, that you have some humor. You know, um, and respecting digital boundaries. That's a good one. Avoid being overly forward or explicit in online conversations. That's true. That's true. I try to be careful. Sometimes we can say too much. We gotta give people space. Sometimes we can overdo it, and especially when we're dating, and you have an interest for somebody. Sometimes you need to just kind of pull back a little bit, because if the interest is there, then the other person, once you respond to something, let them just pull back, and give them an opportunity to process whatever it is, and if they want to respond, if they don't, then just leave it or move on from that person. It's just that simple. um I think that it's important to emphasize and validate your feelings, by showing you understand and support the other person's emotions. You might not really understand what they're going through if you haven't really experienced something like that, but just to be an ear for someone. And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to develop this channel, to give people an opportunity to just vent. You don't have to pay for this. It's just an opportunity to vent to somebody who's willing to listen and be a mentor. Because I was a counselor and an advisor, so I did that. And sometimes it's just about just listening to somebody, and then when you're listening to somebody, don't pass their information on to anybody else. Unless it's abuse or something like that, then it needs to be reported. But if you're not a mandatory, that gets into a whole other issue about mandatory reporting. So just be careful with that. But it's important to allow people to talk, because right now we're in times where people are afraid to talk, or they, for whatever reason, or they don't have anyone that they can talk to. For me, for instance, I don't mind just saying this online, but I'm single, so I don't really socialize with very many people, and so I don't, and I very seldom talk on the phone. Sometimes I do, but I keep to a minimum of people around me, because I like my space to be, I like my space to be a certain way. So I don't really interact with that many people, but um, and then I monitor kind of what I say most of the time. I have very few people that I confide in, my true deepest feelings. Anyway, uh, I do share sometimes. I have one friend that's a minister, and I trust her. And so when something's bothering me, I'll talk to her. But most of the time I'm pretty good. But every now and then I feel kind of, because because I'm single. Or sometimes I know how it is to be single, and I don't really go out that much, so it can get boring. It gets more boring than anything. But I know that eventually all of that will change. I'm not, because I just don't want to be around people or out and about just for the sake of being just around people, in fake situations and environments. So, but I do go do stuff sometimes, though. But I really have to want to do it, or there has to be a reason for me um, to get out and do something. Uh, I think that people need to be willing to give people space too, for silence. Because sometimes people want that, they don't feel like talking, they might need that space or whatever. And so I think that people need to learn how to respect other people's boundaries. Or if they see somebody sitting quietly, if you're concerned, just ask them, are you okay? Is there anything I could do? And if they don't want to really talk, leave them alone. Just leave them alone. Let them get through it. Because if they want to talk, they'll tell you. But if they don't want to talk, don't try to just pry stuff out of somebody, because that could be annoying, you know. Let's see. If you can, try to remember some details of conversations. Nobody's saying word for word, but the highlights, so you can repeat stuff back. So the person that you're talking to, if you're having a discussion going back and forth, so they can know that you're here listening to what they're saying, even if you don't remember every single word. But just repeat back some words every now and then that you hear them say. To confirms to them that somebody's listening to them. Sometimes that's all people want, is just for somebody just to hear them. But then if they're willing to confide in you, don't tell their secrets to other people. Just leave it. Be a good friend or whatever. Showing appreciation. I think a lot of people need to work on that. And not go, but I try when people do things for me, which I'm not around people that often, so I don't really have people that do that much for me. And sometimes for me, I'm just speaking for me right now, sometimes that could be difficult because sometimes I might need help with something. And because I'm a woman and stuff like that, I don't trust everybody around me. So I have a certain friend that'll help me come over and do yard work or whatever. I messed up my riding lawnmower. I bought a brand new riding lawnmower a couple years ago, and I just went over a tree root and I messed it up. So, but anyway, when I need certain things done, like maintenance stuff done, I have a friend that I can call. But sometimes I can't always do that if it requires a more professional. A person who's a professional, like a plumber or electrician or something like that. But for the little simple things, I'm blessed to have somebody that can help me sometimes. But it's just I'm real guarded, you know, uh, about allowing people to get too close to me, though, because I've had some bad experiences with folks, and so I try to be real careful about that. I'm just sharing, you know. Um, and being mindful of social media interactions, we got to be careful. And I know I got to be careful with that too. Sometimes I could probably get, um, maybe sometimes I say too much. So then I think about it and I'm like, oh, and then I might go and just remove whatever it is I said, um, or going back and editing. So be careful for that, because that can bite you in the butt. Using memorable compliments. I think I kind of talked about complimenting people, but watch out for that. Be careful how you compliment people. But it makes them feel good when it's done taste in a tasteful way, you know. Because a lot of people don't get compliments. Another thing that is difficult for people in these days is to express their vulnerability. They're afraid that if they express their vulnerability, somebody's going to take advantage of them. Like for instance, I'll give you for instance. In my case, I was in the city. I was on the metro, and I was just talking to this lady, this random lady, and we were talking. I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but I said, oh, well, I understand what you're saying, whatever it was. And I said, well, because I'm single and I live alone. And so she said, oh, I wouldn't tell anybody. I said, well, they're not going to go home with me. So I really don't care about that. But I understand. But some people are real skittish about stuff like that. Maybe in I probably should be careful for that, honestly. I'm probably a little bit too open when it comes to stuff like that. But she was a woman and everything. But that's something I probably need to work on because people will take advantage of you. I know I have had a group, somebody that I met, and it was like I wish when you're single meeting people, you just they pretend and stuff, and so sometimes everybody doesn't have the best intentions. So I got into a situation with somebody that I don't have anything to do with, and it's like sometimes people don't know when to just back up. So I probably need to work on this. Something I probably need to work on. But I don't want to be like too vulnerable anyway. But I don't mind telling people some things, but I don't want to be perceived as too vulnerable because people in this day and time, they also some people will try to take advantage of that you know and for me in my situation, I probably should be more cautious. I'm going to say it to you all and whoever goes back and looks at the live later. With me being I'm living in a state where I don't have any family, so that alone you know uh, has made me a target. And because people will watch you, so you got to watch that vulnerability thing. It's okay to share your thoughts and feelings in a genuine way, but just be careful giving away too much information when you're trying to be vulnerable. And a lot, I know in these day and times people overthink stuff. you know I think sometimes we just overthink stuff sometimes. I try not to do that. Every now and then I'll get stuck on something and I'll just and I'll think about it over and over. But I don't like doing that. I try to not do that because that can turn into something else. So just work on not overthinking stuff. Don't dissect every interaction. Just kind of go with the flow, especially in the date when you're dating someone. um well, what did they mean when they said that? Well, what did they mean when they said? But some people do use symbols. And every word means something for them. They do really like target in on stuff. And I understand how that can be, taken to the extreme, though. And respecting rejection, that's something that's difficult for most people. Who wants to be rejected? But it's a part of life. We're not made for everybody, or all situations that we're dealing with don't go the way we always want them to go. So we have to be able to, if the person's not interested, they're just not interested. And just we need to just be able to bow out of it. If you can tell they're not interested, just leave them alone. Because you don't want to be seen as somebody that hangs on too long. I think sometimes we hold on too long to the wrong things. I think I did a video on that, but I just wanted to let you know that healthy flirting should always be consensual and respectful. So pay attention to the cues and be mindful of other, of the other person's comfort level. So if you see them feeling a little bit uncomfortable, or or their face changing, they acting up, all different, then you might want to pump the brakes on that. Okay. But anyway, it's 10:40. I stayed on here for 40 minutes, and so as we build it up, as we build the channel up, then I probably will stay on longer. But I appreciate you, whoever you are, for showing up. And but I'm going to go ahead and log off, and I'll be here tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Okay. Just remember, smile this day anyway, and reach one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. Okay.